So my previous book, The Century of Flight at Peyton Field, took, by our estimate, 4,000 hours for myself and my co-author to bring it to publication. This included the research, writing, editing, illustrating, photo work, re-editing, etc. So this project, or book, covered 100 years of history, while the current book I'm planning on writing is less than that. So the campus bus service at Kent State existed for 37 years. So the story would cover a couple years before and then a couple years after. And so there's gonna be a little bit more, but roughly, 40 years of storytelling, if you will. So significantly less than 100 years to cover the whole airport. So our estimate of the 4,000 hours is just that. It's an estimate. We're not basing that on anything specific. What we did, we just kind of did some mental math that on an average day we were putting in X many hours, and it took us 4 years to do it. So multiply that over 52 weeks times 4 with 2 people, and we came up with 4,000 hours. So we're actually, wouldn't surprise us if we had an exact number to find that it was actually more than that. It was a lot of time spent. So out of curiosity, I'm going to change that for this book. I'm actually keeping track of all of my time writing, or every little step of the process. I'm keeping track of all of that. So I've created a Google spreadsheet, and in that I have a couple different columns that I'm keeping track of the specific time. And it's broken down by week. So research, obviously, which is the stage I'm kind of in now mostly. That's online research, looking at documents and newspapers. Even reading books that are also going to kind of fill in some of the gaps in this story. I also have administration, which is kind of like a catch-all. So that is sending emails, responding with phone calls, and however many times that I do that, talking with people that are making contributions, or also reaching out to different resources for just the research. So that's going to be kind of a catch-all. Illustration. So this book, the previous book, I did create quite a few illustrations for. Unfortunately, not all of them made it into the book, which obviously was a downer, but nonetheless. So like some of them would be here, like these liveries that I did of the Kent State aircraft. And I plan on doing something similar with this. So there will be some illustrations. I've actually already done probably quite a few, I would consider, but I'm going to consider that time already spent not included in this, because that was done years ago, even though it'll be useful for this project. Photo editing, that's going to be a big one. So photo editing, obviously, it's capturing the images, so scanning most likely with slides and photos, and then editing the photos to color correct them and get rid of any blemishes that are on them and all that. So this project's got a lot of photos. The campus bus service was very good about taking photos. They took a lot of photos. They kept a lot of photos. So there are hundreds of photos. So that's going to be a lot to kind of sort through. In addition to that, I'm also looking at outside sources to get contributions from other people, or collect photos from other sources that I'm able to track down. So I'm going to have to get those as well and possibly edit those down and all that. Writing, obviously there's going to be a lot of writing involved with putting the book together, so I'm not at that stage. I'm still a ways away. So I'll deal with that, obviously, when the time is right. And then interviews. So I've already kind of started this a little bit. I haven't done any formal interviews. I've done some phone calls and meet and greets where we really sit down with people and tell them what I'm doing and see where their story fits in this, and also kind of getting an idea if they know other people that I can sit down and interview. So that process has started already, and I'm sure there will be a lot more along the way. So far I've spent 43 hours and 56 minutes invested in writing this book. Obviously it all falls within research, a little bit of administration, and also interviews as well, at least my initial interviews that I've had. So my goal is to do about 10 hours a week on this, and I'm averaging that now. So I got to keep moving that forward. This week's been a little slow. Life has kind of gotten in the way of that. So I have a couple days left in this week to try to play catch up and get some more time into this project before it's done. So how many hours will this book take? So if this book by math did roughly 4,000 and it's 100 years, this was a little bit less than half that. So you're looking at roughly 2,000 hours. And about half of that would be spent on the research portion, and the second half of that would be the writing and editing and dealing with the publisher. 2,000 seems a little high for some reason. I'm not basing that on anything. So I'll say, let's say it's 1,500. So 750 hours at 10 hours a week. It's about a year and a half of research, interviewing, and photo editing and all that different gathering. That seems about right, at least at this point. And then after that, the last year and a half, or 750 hours, would go into the writing, hopefully finding a publisher, and then dealing with them, and editing the book and getting it to its final form before it actually goes to print. So this project is shorter in the sense that it's less time, but it's also better documented. The airport story wasn't as well documented. The university wasn't real good about keeping a lot of the records. I mean, there was plenty there, but as compared to the campus bus service, that almost like pack rats seemed to keep anything and everything, which is amazing. But it's a lot to sort through. Obviously, most of it won't be useful, but the only way to find out is to look at it all, or scan it, or at least keep it in your back pocket because you may need it. So there's going to be a lot of that. So that could make it a little bit longer just because there's more to go through and process. There's more people alive, which is actually great. So the airport story, it's 100 years, obviously. You go back beyond 50, you're going to be hard-pressed finding people that were there in the earliest days. So we had a handful of people from the earlier years. Most people fell within the last 30. But this story being only 40, most people are alive. So that's great. It's going to make for a better story. But it also means that there's more people to talk to and interview and work with to see what they have to contribute, whether it be photos or documents or artifacts. So if there may be more on that front as well. But the resources are more centralized. So this is a Kent State story. I live relatively close to Kent. So the Kent State Special Collections, which houses most of these resources that I'm going to need, isn't that far away. So it's a short drive. It's something that I can do in a day. And even then, most of the people, a good number of them, especially the key individuals, live here. So it's easier to meet with them, schedule that around our different schedules and all that. So that'll make it a lot easier. We didn't really have that liberty with this. Just about, almost everybody wasn't here. They had moved long and far away, especially when you're a pilot. Most people don't fly out of Cleveland or Pittsburgh or anything like that. So it was a little bit harder to kind of piece that together. So that will be a benefit for this one, the fact that most of this is centrally located when it comes to the resources. So that 2,000 hours for a book, again, seems a little high, maybe 1,500 hours. So that's doable. So that would still put it at 3 years from now. So if this is early part of 2020, that'd be the early part of 2023. But I'm hoping it's a little bit less than that. And for some reason, maybe 2.5 is what I'm thinking. So, a year to research, and a year or so to write and work with a publisher. Hopefully you can find one relatively quickly and get it done. That seems reasonable at this stage. At least 4 weeks in, I'm already making predictions. So that's kind of where I think we're at. I'm going to keep track of the time. I'm going to see what becomes the biggest time sink with this. And onward and upward. So time will be calculated. I'll keep sharing it along the way because out of more of my curiosity than anything else. I mean, this isn't scientific and by no means do I have a goal. I mean, if it takes 3,000 hours, it does. If it takes 5 years, it does. I'm not going to shortcut anything just to make sure that it gets done in a certain amount of time. That doesn't do the story justice. You only get really one shot of telling the story, and I want to make sure it's done right. So 4 weeks down, many more to go. Hundreds, maybe, which sounds awful to say at this point, but Well, here we go. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye now.